When William, Kate, George, and Charlotte walked into the royal box this July, the entire crowd stood up. Not because of protocol, because of everything this family has been through to get back to that exact seat. Subscribe if you want the real story behind royal traditions, not just the photos. To understand why that ovation mattered, you have to look back at how long this tradition has actually run, and how much it's quietly tracked this family's life along the way. William and Kate have attended Wimbledon together every year since 2011, becoming, as royal watchers have long noted, one of the most consistent fixtures in the tournament's royal box. The exclusive seating area at center court reserved for dignitaries, former champions, and, nearly every summer, the Prince and Princess of Wales. The small details across those years form their own quiet timeline. In 2019, Kate and William coordinated in matching baby blue. Kate, visibly animated throughout the match, caught mid-reaction by cameras that have followed this couple at Wimbledon for over a decade. In 2021, after the tournament had been cancelled the previous year due to COVID, Kate was photographed mid-laugh beside William, genuine and unposed. In 2022, the family tradition expanded to include the next generation for the first time. Prince George attended alongside his parents, just months before his 9th birthday, marking his own personal debut at the tournament his mother has represented as patron since 2016. Princess Charlotte followed in 2023, joining her parents and older brother at center court to watch Carlos Alcaraz win that year's men's title. Her own first appearance in a royal box seat that, by tradition, only holds 74 people total, with exceptions for royal children made carefully and selectively. Then came 2025, a genuinely difficult year for this family that showed up even in something as ordinary as a tennis tournament. Kate was mid-recovery from cancer treatment, and her attendance that year came with real, visible limits. She notably skipped William's annual charity polo match that July, an event supporting the couple's various causes that she'd attended regularly in previous years, choosing instead to continue prioritizing her recovery. In her place, her own parents, Carol and Michael Middleton, were spotted in the royal box, filling in for their daughter at the tournament she'd represented as patron for nearly a decade. When Kate did eventually appear at Wimbledon that year, for the ladies' singles final between Amanda Anisimova and Iga Swiatek, it was framed correctly by observers as a genuinely meaningful moment. Not a guaranteed appearance, but a hard-won one, arriving after a year that had asked more of her than any prior Wimbledon season had. That context is what makes this July's return land so differently. On July 12, 2026, the family attended Day 14 of the championships as a full foursome. George, now 12, and Charlotte, 11, seated beside their parents in the royal box for the men's singles final, watching Italy's Jannik Sinner defeat Germany's Alexander Zverev to win his second consecutive Wimbledon title. Louis, 7, did not attend, consistent with the tournament's tightly limited seating and the family's continued practice of only selectively bringing their youngest into these particular public appearances. Kate wore a green dress with a drapey, over-the-shoulder detail, paired with taupe heels and a matching handbag. Charlotte, in a blue dress and white flats, was noted by multiple outlets as looking increasingly like a smaller version of her mother, what one outlet called her mini-me. William and George coordinated in suits, William in gray with a blue shirt underneath, George in a more traditional all-black ensemble. The appearance itself came one day after Kate had already attended the women's singles final solo, presenting the Venus Rosewater dish to champion Linda Noskova, continuing her role as patron of the All England Lawn Tennis and Croquet Club, a position she's now held for a full decade. Presenting that trophy, then returning the next day with her entire family for the men's final, meant Kate had effectively bookended the tournament's final weekend on her own terms, fully present, fully visible, in a way that would have been genuinely uncertain just 12 months earlier. That's the real context behind the standing ovation. It wasn't written into any program or explained in any official statement. It was simply a crowd's spontaneous reaction to watching a family walk into a box they'd occupied together for over a decade, at a moment when, 1 year prior, half of that lineup had needed to send substitutes instead. Tennis crowds at Wimbledon are famously reserved, more likely to offer polite applause than genuine spontaneous emotion. A standing ovation for a family simply taking their seats is not standard tournament behavior. It's a specific, collective acknowledgement of everything that particular return actually represented. Kate herself offered a small, genuinely telling comment around this same period, tied to a separate physical challenge she'd taken on that summer. Speaking about why she'd pushed herself into a demanding personal undertaking, she said plainly that part of it was personal, that she felt genuinely grateful simply to be strong enough to do it, but that more importantly, she wanted the effort to give something back to others going through similar struggles. That framing, gratitude for basic physical capability, redirected outward into purpose, runs as a quiet thread underneath this entire Wimbledon return as well. Showing up isn't something this family takes for granted anymore, not after the year they collectively lived through. There's a broader pattern worth naming here too, beyond just this one family. Royal appearances at events like Wimbledon are often read purely as fashion moments or brief photo opportunities, easy to scroll past without much thought. But stacked together across 15 years, the matching blue in 2019, the genuine laughter in 2021, George's debut in 2022, Charlotte's in 2023, the absence and careful substitution in 2025, and this full, coordinated return in 2026, what emerges isn't really a fashion story at all. It's a fairly complete accidental documentary of a family's actual life, tracked one summer at a time, through a tennis tournament that happens to photograph its most consistent guests with unusual consistency. None of this needed to be explicitly stated by the palace, and it wasn't. Nobody issued a formal comment connecting this year's applause to last year's absence. It simply existed in the moment itself. A crowd that had, whether consciously or not, been watching this same family return to the same seats for over a decade, standing up the instant they saw exactly who was walking in. If you've followed this family's Wimbledon appearances over the years, tell me in the comments which year stood out to you most, and why this one felt different. I read every single one.